AbioticFactor is a survival sandbox game built on the very dangerous assumption that you're not an idiot. This game gives you a tutorial much like Dark Souls, meaning it prepares you for absolutely nothing. And this isn't just a job. It's a new hire's worst nightmare, and so much worse. Emergency lockdown, aliens, interdimensional portals, the military, and just to make things worse, this facility is mostly an office. You'll have to find something or someone to eat. Oh, and did I mention the military is executing people? Yeah, that's happening too. And all of this on your first day where your training was stepping on some rebar and bleeding. So good luck surviving the hell that awaits. This is me, dashingly handsome and simply too powerful for hair, so I willed it away. Of course, balanced out by an extremely unserious tie and the thickest, nerdiest glasses you've ever seen, starting out with the only thing scarier than a bad first day, an awkward drive, especially from somebody you've never met. No information about them, they just know it's our first day. And the second our feet touch the pavement, they're gone. This place was really just a shack, and not a well-kept one. It kinda looked like one that you'd see in a horror movie. When I got to the intercom, I felt very disrespected. The front desk guy took one look at me and closed the door immediately.
Yo, what's up, boss? Oh.
And I swear I heard him muttering from the other side of the door.
This guy looks like a loser. Why do they need to hire more dorks around here?
After I walked in, I was told to grab this little pad and head downstairs. Immediately met with sparkly vision from radiation because, of course, I had no suit protection and none was provided. So I probably have some super cancer brewing up already. Anyway, I was handed a hard hat, of course, not radiation resistant, and moved down some more stairs to a big elevator where we saw a few different floors. Nothing interesting. Nothing interesting.
Security instructions.
What the fuck is that?
Upon arrival at the bottom, I waved at a man by the name of Bruce and started my initiation. Of course, he wasn't the normal person that does it. Everything from here seemed really scuffed. The initiation consisted of breaking open vents, smashing boxes deliberately placed in front of vents, and stomping on a fake alien made of wood, cloth, and rebar.
Oh, brutal.
Which of course caused me to bleed, which I could have seen coming, but I don't want to get fired before I even get hired.
Look, we'll call this training. Basic first aid.
After bandaging myself, I moved to the next room where Bruce called me an egghead.
It goes into a lot of detail only an egghead would want. No offense.
Oh, okay.
Then proceeded to take a phone call. Extremely disrespectful, but we move on. The rest of the initiation was basically just hooking up a heater, moving it from one side of the room to the other side, and then plugging it in. Don't know why they needed me to do that,
nice
but
work.
before
Looks like
I left, Bruce told me they had to check on
situation
something topside, and we had skipped a few things on the list. But we didn't have to worry about them because there's people like him around to keep us safe.
You didn't have to cut me off. We were nothing.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
So I guess that's security training, maybe? I don't know, maybe we'll do it another day. So I stepped into the elevator and immediately got rerouted because of a lockdown. Unlike most games, this one has character saves, which is kind of like Project Zomboid, if that means anything to you. It means we get to choose a job, which gives us stats, additional points to allocate, and then we get the luxury to incorrectly allocate these points into things that sound good on paper, but probably will never actually be useful. Things like cooking, construction, and even agriculture. We can also hinder our character to get additional points, which I didn't do, because I'm terrified of clicking the dry skin option and immediately turning into dust from some kind of anti-genie wish. Fresh off the elevator, we're met with another scientist who's also locked up in here. Apparently, they were coming down from level 8 to get some coffee, and now they refuse to move until the lockdown's over. However, they did point out one of their coworkers by the name of Jaeger who was locked out and needed some help. And of course, we should help them. First, before I did anything, I purchased the cookie and the vending machine, not because I wanted it, but because I didn't want the other scientists to have it. And if this facility collapses today, I'll die knowing he never got his coffee, and he couldn't enjoy cookie either. Okay, now let's go help Jaeger. Of course, getting him wouldn't be simple, and all the doors were locked because of the lockdown, even the ones that didn't have an auto lockdown feature. So we had to go back into the vents. Inside the vents, I started making throwing nets so I could stomp on the small aliens. And I honestly didn't think our training would be applied this quickly, but hey, look at where we are. While slowly making my way around to the level 1 cafeteria, I was ripping pipes off the wall and picking up every piece of scrap I could find, because all of it was useful. Probably. When I finally made my way through the cafeteria, I reached the problem door, the door where Jaeger was trapped behind. It needed a door control module to be fixed, which needed an energy brick. So now we have to figure out how to make one of those. This game isn't one that'll hold your hand other than the obvious tutorial. Instead, it teaches through environmental hints, like these PCs that are marked with a note saying broken, free to use for spare parts, which we'll use to figure out how to make a crafting table, set it down, craft it, and plug it in, just like we did with the heater in the tutorial, which, again, I didn't think this would apply so quickly. Now we can find out how to make what we actually needed in the first place, and lucky for us, everything we needed was actually in those computers that we destroyed earlier. So, with an energy brick in hand, I went to repair the door and got reminded immediately
My God, Jesus Christ.
that I'm a coward. And no, before you ask, this isn't a horror game, I just checked all the tags. I guess I just scare really easy. However, this was a new type of alien that takes far more than one net and a stomp to kill. After I killed it, I actually had a revelation.
Maybe I should have talked to the guy before I opened the door, because he's kind of just dead now.
I checked back with the other scientists and, well,
Oh my god. What happened to Jaeger?
you're unbearable.
He didn't deserve that.
I agree, but
I mean, not really.
what is wrong with you?
And of course, the security that was watching Jaeger struggle the entire time was clearly not going to secure the area.
Why did you not save him?
Look, I don't know what's going on.
I know you're bad at your job.
And that was also my job, apparently. The new hire, on their first day, with no security training. Great. However, we did have a little bit of instruction. We needed to go to the second floor to find manufacturing. With the main goal set, we also had a few sub-goals. Get more carry capacity, find a good place to store all of our items, and best of all, figure out why the hell any of this is even happening in the first place. And turns out, email terminals are the best place to find out. Not only to give us some useful insight into what's going on, but we can also get some creative ideas, like this crossbow made out of table legs, rubber band balls, and desk phones. We found other scientists, and they're completely useless. At this point, exploration is the name of the game, collecting resources is vital to our survival, and unfortunately, I had no idea what resources we actually needed. So, obviously the solution was take everything. Every pipe, every computer, every random object that wasn't nailed down. And if it was nailed down, we'd take the nails too, which meant a lot of trips back and forth to our base, the kitchen, right in front of Jaeger's body, which I might eat if I get hungry. While organizing things, I discovered the workbench upgrades, which seemed pretty cool. Things like making all items in an area usable for crafting instead of manually going down a checklist organizing storage like a psychopath. On my next outing, I decided to go up the stairs and go to the left instead of to the right this time. Our first find was a room with 2 aliens that thoroughly got stomped, along with a message log talking about alien type IS-171 from Antiverse 2. Apparently, it's a stationary entity being studied for potential uses like air fresheners, perfume, and area defense. What? I don't even know how those compare, but it's in the log, and apparently being attacked by it is like fighting a pizza. I don't know. Continuing down the hallway, another large alien dog had to be taken out, and all I had was a big knife, so I decided to stab it 42 times. We started finding these Class 1 security keypads, which could only be accessed through hacking. And then we found Grayson. Grayson told us soldiers came through and locked down manufacturing and took out a bunch of scientists as well. Now we need a power cell. From where? I'm not sure, but level 3 is a good place to start. But for now, I spent a while collecting random items and supplies from around the offices on floor 2, smashing computers, breaking boxes, stuffing everything I could into a backpack. I also started to craft extra energy bricks, not only because I found a door that needed one, that also happens to lead to floor 3, but if this door needs one, I'm sure more will need some later. Before we go back out again, let's talk day and night. From what I understand, day and night aren't actually so different, except that at nighttime, the entire facility loses power, that being lights, sockets, everything. No crafting, no defenses, nothing. The only way to get around this is by crafting a makeshift battery, which sounds more like a bomb than an energy source. Oh, and enemies also respawn. Well, some do, in random spots. We found another scientist, again, useless.
Mondays, am I right?
I'm gonna kick you. I'm gonna kick you. You're crawling on the ground, and you said Mondays. Am I right?
And more exploration on the second floor led to rooms full of tech parts, tomato seeds, and soil bags. Storage rooms with weak jump scares that somehow still
my
get me.
God, Jesus.
Remember, not a horror game. And we even found an entire pool and locker room. Of course, more offices, because remember, this is a research building. Last but not least, we found a broken elevator on the second floor that's supposed to lead to the third floor silo. But it's broken. So it's seemingly the only other route up to the third floor, broken and or locked. We had one option remaining, that being the door. The TV in the break room was still running, and according to it, naps were the most optimal way of healing. Now, I don't really know who's broadcasting medical advice during a dimensional catastrophe, but it sounded official enough, so I took a quick nap. And then we crack open that door. Rounded the corner and found a few interesting things. First, a room I wasn't allowed access to. Second, a shortcut back to Grayson, who unfortunately was still laying there in pain on the ground from being shot. Which feels like a pretty important detail that I forgot to mention earlier, but you could probably tell. Anyway, in good news, there was a brand new working elevator, and in this place, a working elevator is basically a miracle. So naturally, I took it, and at the top, a glowing portal. Just floating there. Now, normally, when you see some mysterious portal in a research facility, the correct response is to... Good for me, I love being wrong. So I started walking toward it. But before I jumped into what would probably be my impending doom, I checked a nearby email terminal, informing everyone radiation levels were rising in the facility and everyone was advised to take iodine tablets. So before I stepped into the mysterious interdimensional portal, I popped a few pills. No suit, just a few pills, and I guess radiation was no problem. The other side of the portal looked like a mix between a coral reef and some kind of alien planet. Bright colors, strange plants, weird terrain, you know, everything you want to see when you're completely unprepared. And of course, a new alien, the Exor, an alien that stands on two legs, has some sort of energy cannon, and can teleport. Meanwhile, my weapon is a pipe, which, scientifically speaking, is not an ideal matchup. But that didn't stop me, because the Exor had extremely bad aim, which meant after several swings to the head, it fell down very, very still, and very, very dead. Another nearby log explained this place was called Antiverse 2. Apparently, this is a world built from fragments of other worlds. Different environments, different ecosystems, but somehow all share the same life forms. Which sounds fascinating, and also an incredibly horrible place to fall into. After exploring a little bit more, I found another portal, so naturally I jumped through it, which dropped me onto a random pipe somewhere back inside the facility. Short adventure, successful return, and most importantly, I'm not a mutated bioexperiment yet. So I would say all things went pretty well. As it turns out, this pipe was actually on the other side of that locked door I was talking about earlier. Blocking off, you guessed it, more offices, but also far more interesting, the silo. And an added bonus, the elevator that wasn't working on the second floor now works, which meant progress. Actual progress. Then Dr. Mayfield, another scientist we found, gave us more instructions. If we wanted to go forward, we need to build a hacker to access the next door, which meant I needed to go back to our base to precisely figure out what we needed. We needed a controller, an LCD screen, and an emitter, which all required CPU parts from security robots. So it looks like our next objective is quite clear. Find robots and start breaking them down for CPUs. The only way forward was getting those CPUs, which meant walking up to security bots and deconstructing them by hitting them with a metal pipe over and over and over again until they fall apart. Eventually, it rolled off the charging pad and battle began. And that's when I learned something very important. These security robots were in fact designed for security, which unfortunately meant they were also designed to beat the absolute shit out of me. My only weapon at this time is a pipe, which meant every attack looked like this. Me hitting metal against more metal. Meanwhile, the robot was hitting electrified metal against my bones. Needless to say, it wasn't working. So I went back to the drawing boards. The drawing boards meaning the crafting bench. Clearly, the smart solution here was a ranged weapon, which left me with exactly one option, the crossbow from earlier. Speaking of tables, we actually needed to dismantle the only table in our living space, a small sacrifice, but, well, sacrifices need to be made in the name of science. I also crafted a healthy supply of bolts. Now armed with my extremely crafty office supply weaponry, I returned for round 2. This time, I was confident. ready and prepared to put 30 bolts into this robot if necessary. Unfortunately, there was a few complications. First of all, I couldn't aim this thing. At first, I thought it was because my arms were injured from the first fight, but no. Turns out, I'm just very, very shaky. The second problem, reloading takes forever and I can't run while doing it. And third, I may have forgot to say something important. The bolts are made of pins, which means technically I'm fighting a security bot with aggressive paperwork. So after unloading nearly 30 pins into this robot, it was functioning absolutely perfectly. And it proceeded to beat me like I owed it money. Back to the drawing boards once again. Searching for new ideas, I found an item called Boom Bait. The description reads, a device that emits a beeping noise to attract enemies, followed by a damaging detonation. This sounded promising. It actually reminds me of the pipe bomb from Left 4 Dead games, so I had to craft a ton of them. This was just the solution, there was no way it wasn't. Right before a portal opened up inside of my base and started pouring out small aliens, which caused me to panic briefly. But in my defense, interdimensional home invasions are stressful. After dealing with that situation, it was finally time for round 3. But before committing fully, I decided to test one of the boom baits since I was already low HP. Well, back to the drawing boards. This time I managed to accomplish a few other things, like cooking alien drumsticks, which I'm choosing to believe are safe to eat, and I also met another scientist by the name of Alice, who is currently bleeding out in the hallway. Apparently, she locked a group of soldiers inside a room and left them to die in there, which she seems pretty upset about. Honestly, this place has a lot of emotions going on.
I locked it in with everyone else.
I found another security robot that would assuredly beat my ass, and after wandering all the way back around to the pool area, at this point I nearly spent 2 in-game days trying to kill a single robot. Then, I had an epiphany. What if, instead of bringing weapons to the robot, I brought powerful defenses to it? Plastic shield, leg wraps, lever, plug strip, and the Choppinator. Also a single barricade, just to make sure. This was the plan. If it didn't work, I had no backup ideas. I would be put back to square one, and honestly, we might just be shooting the robot with 500 pins. I don't know. All we had to do was set everything up at each robot during the daytime so the facility had power and hope for the best. And somehow, it worked. All 3 security robots destroyed, which finally meant we had enough CPUs, and after all that effort, we could finally craft the hacker. All of this work, just to get a power cell for a forklift, so we can get into manufacturing and get shot like the rest of the people. The hacking device turned out to be incredibly simple to use. Just tap a few buttons and the door opens, which is slightly concerning considering this is supposed to be a high security research facility. The first thing I accidentally did with this new power was release another alien type into the building, Vaxor, the same teleporting, energy blasting alien from earlier. Except this time, I remembered something important. I need 2 of their hearts to craft an upgrade. So instead of avoiding them, I started hunting them, which in hindsight was probably my smartest career decision. Eventually, I managed to obtain 1 Exor heart, and instead of continuing forward like a reasonable person, I decided to explore the other rooms I could hack into before continuing. Right before this detour, I found something I probably should have found much earlier. A hazmat suit. After everything I've been through, going through interdimensional portals, praying that radiation doesn't turn me into a biohazard, I finally found basic safety equipment. Feels a little late, but we have it. The next room I hacked into turned out to be a security room, and inside that security room was a firing range and a gun. Oh yeah! Finally, an actual firearm. Unfortunately, my accuracy with the gun turned out to be just as good as it was with the crossbow, which is to say, not great. Anyway, back into the breach, I had to show another Exor. It do go down. With the heart secured, I returned to the base and installed the upgrades, which now allows me to place items wherever in storage, and I can still craft from them, which means I can stop organizing things like a deranged warehouse manager. Now, it's time for the real objective. Power cells. The moment I stepped through the portal, I realized something was very wrong. We had been teleported to what looked like a random backyard, fog everywhere, empty houses, silent streets. It looked like we had somehow landed in a scuffed Silent Hill. Warning signs everywhere threatening the use of weapons, so I assumed we were actually just in Texas. Inside the first building, there was 1 dead military soldier. Eventually, after crawling through some vents, I found the only other living person here. Another scientist. Apparently, they had been trapped in this place for a while. They were wearing some kind of strange armor that looked very eldritch. According to them, there were 3 power cells scattered around the area. Find all 3, and we could escape. That's when I noticed the second thing in this town. Something walking. Massive, unnatural, an entity so large I could feel its footsteps before I even saw it, and there wasn't just one. There were several. Loud booming steps, terrifying sounds echoing through the fog, and unfortunately, the only way forward was straight past them. So naturally, I started sneaking. And very quickly, I realized something horrifying. Either there was more of these things than I initially thought, or they were moving around extremely fast. Because no matter where I was, it felt like something was always nearby, watching. Waiting. Eventually, I made it to a building. The first place that actually felt somewhat safe for about 20 seconds, because one of the entities actually spotted me, crouched down, and slowly came inside to investigate. After it eventually left and my heart stopped beating 1,000 beats per minute, I continued exploring the building until I found roof access containing the first power cell. And somehow, the power cell itself managed to jump scare me.
Power cell? Oh my god, Jesus. Oh, that scared the oh my god, that was so loud.
1 power cell down, and 2 to go. The portal created by the last power cell dropped me into an arcade, which unfortunately had nothing useful inside except decorations, which meant I absolutely needed them. So naturally I stuffed 2 entire arcade machines into my backpack, which immediately made me extremely slow. Another power cell was waiting on the roof. After grabbing it, another portal. I reluctantly abandoned one of the arcade machines to regain a little bit of my speed. The next area was a library, and unfortunately, it was full of the same giant entities that we saw before. Sneaking didn't go very well here either, mostly because one of them was standing completely still around a corner, waiting. However, getting spotted actually helped me find a new path. So after I snapped my legs running away from the entities and dropped another arcade machine on the roof, I went back and climbed the bookshelves. I was able to move above and around most of the patrol routes, which made sneaking far easier. Eventually, this led outside, where I was immediately chased by one of the tall figures, which I had now officially decided to call the Tallman. I ran across a bridge, up some stairs, and into a small room where I immediately hid in a corner like a pathetic baby, only to realize the door to continue was directly next to me. 1 more power cell and we could finally escape this place. An elevator door opened, and of course, one of the Tallmen was standing directly in the way. Thankfully, this one was actually pretty stupid. After discovering a vent pretty close to the elevator, I realized I could safely run around the area without being seen, even directly behind it, which meant the final power cell was finally within reach. And all that was left now was one last terrifying sprint and jump. And if everything went right, we would finally return to the first hell that brought us here in the first place. The mill hell! With the 3 power cells secured, we're finally able to reach manufacturing. And as a bonus, we're also carrying 2 extremely radioactive power cells, which I still had absolutely no idea how, where, or when we'd use them, but I was keeping them on me just in case. Before heading to manufacturing, I stopped by my base, deposited all my trash, and set down all my random decorations that I obtained in the Antiverse. And the moment I was done, I got attacked by more random aliens, which once again scared me, because apparently now my base functions as a public spawning zone. Get away from my base! Anyway, manufacturing. For some reason, a deep fog rolled through the entire underground facility, which is impressive because, again, we're several hundred feet underground. But sure, why not? Fog was the least of our worries, as we had far more pressing matters to deal with. Because the moment I entered the area, I heard this.
There's no way that's machine gun fire.
Yeah, so we're sneaky now, because a man wearing a hazmat suit and holding a pipe is not beating a machine gun in any universe. While sneaking through the fog, I actually found another scientist not shot, which was actually really surprising. Apparently, the military had already locked down the main exit, which was our best chance of escaping. And now, our only chance is talking to a person running something called the Forge. So the plan was simple. Sneak through the armed military occupants, find this mysterious Forge operator, and talk to him to get out. Somewhere along the lines, this game went from a survival game to a horror stealth game to just a stealth game. Because if we get caught, we're gonna get shot roughly 70 times. However, I couldn't help myself. I needed to test something. If we killed one, maybe they'd drop armor, weapons, anything useful. So I had to try.
Or push.
Granadas!
15 bullets. That's what it took to kill a soldier. And the entire time, I had the uncomfortable realization that I was killing a man, which feels like a pretty big escalation for someone who started the day smashing fake aliens. Kinda crazy how far we've come, but surely it was worth it, right? Well, he didn't drop anything, initially. Well, if he didn't drop anything on the grounds, and I can't search his body, then maybe we just have to chop him up. I know, big escalation, maybe a little deranged, maybe a little crazy, but it's the only other option we have. And surprise, surprise, he dropped 5 ammo in return. Okay, that was incredibly not worth it. So I just went back to sneaking. No more urge to kill anybody, I just moved on. But if we need 5 ammo, we know how to get it. Eventually, crawling through vents for long enough led me to a room a bit too close to nuclear material. And inside the next room, the room we were under, a guard. Now, instead of leaving like a smart person, I decided to bait him out.
What's this?
The room was safe to loot. Unfortunately, I still had to leave the room, which meant dealing with the guy that I lured out a few seconds ago. And shooting him 15 times was not going to happen. Not only did I not have 15 bullets to shoot, it was just a waste. Luckily, I had recently found a wrench in the exact same room, which dealt significantly more damage than the shitty pipe that I've been carrying around for the whole game. So I opened the gate, threw a net over his head, and started hitting him as hard as I could until he stopped moving. Surprisingly, it worked extremely well. Much faster, much quieter, and significantly less bullets invested. Directly to the right was actually what we've been looking for, the Forge, our objective. According to the scientists running it, we don't have much time, and if we want to keep progressing, we need another hacker, a level 2 hacker. He also offered to craft us equipment if we brought him the materials he needed. But at this point, I needed a break, so I decided to take the tram back to the base. When I arrived, I saw something moving. Another person in a hazmat suit, scanning the area? Now at this point, my instincts had changed, so instead of introducing myself, I threw a net at him. He immediately charged me, and a few shots later, there was silence, and that's when something finally hit me. I will never return to my old life. New worlds, unexplainable entities, scientists pushing too far, portals linking our reality to things we were never meant to see. And now, killing people that look just like me. All because of unstable experiments, all because of curiosity that went too far. And now every one of us is gonna pay the price. But I'm no better. I'm a killer out of curiosity. A killer for survival. And it's funny, I lied on my resume, but somehow I might be the most qualified person left. Before you go in the comments and start typing, yes, I know, this is like 5% of the game. It's a big game. I don't know how to make videos out of 200-hour games. However, if you show some love by doing the YouTube thing, like subscribe, comment, all that stuff, then I'm more than willing to give it a try. But also, I played more of the game and I couldn't find a point where I wanted to actually stop. So this is the conclusion of the story that I decided on. Yeah, that's it. Drink water. I'll see you in the next one.